Hey, everybody, in this episode of iTalk Movies, we're getting up close and personal with writer, director, and producer Brad Epstein. Let's do it.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movies.
All right, Afroman playing us in here to this episode of iTalk Movies. Welcome, everybody. Of course, this is the show where we get up close and personal with the people both in front and behind the camera that bring you all that great entertainment that you're watching on a movie screen, at home, on your TV, or perhaps on a mobile streaming device. I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Now, my guest today is a writer, director, and producer. They call it a triple threat here in the business. He's produced films like About a Boy, Dan in Real Life, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. Now, though, he's taking it all under his own control, and he's doing a film that's just coming out called Ripped. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brad Epstein. Brad, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So, as you mentioned, you're a Los Angeles native.
Yes.
Yes. So, I guess the joke is always like, how often do you find a true Los Angeles native? There's so many,
Very few. There are very few of us left.
a dying breed.
A dying breed, for sure. Absolutely.
And so, you said you went to Fairfax High. So, did you kind of you grew up right around that area?
I grew up Hancock Park area, first
Okay.
in Mar Vista, and then we went to Hancock Park, and I went to Fairfax High. Demi Moore was a year ahead of me. I was with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They used to be the garage band. Not, Flea wasn't there, of course. He was somewhere else. Probably in juvie, but yeah, they were the garage band or something. The band that used to play at lunchtime or something like that. We had those. It was L.A., man.
Yeah. Wow. What is it like though to know that I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers before they were anything?
They were crap. I thought they were crap. Boy, was I wrong. I love them. They're one of my favorite bands, but yeah.
But back at the time, you and your friends were like, who are these guys? Why are they playing at lunch? Get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to go smoke weed, and these guys are like...
So right from the get-go, was television and film, was that something that you were interested in right from the beginning, or did you kind of grow into that a little bit later?
My stepfather, who's basically my father since I was 5, he was an agent at Willie Morris, close to 40 years, a literary agent. He represented like Oliver Stone and Gene Kirkwood's, the people that did like Chorus Line and stuff. So I was exposed to that, but I was one of 5 kids. All the other ones were smart enough to stay out of the business, and I foolishly started to get, I was interested in it. And the image that I had that I really remembered that I wanted to be, this is going to be crazy for you, but Century City wasn't as big as it is now, right? It was very small. It did have like a May company, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe like 2 other restaurants, but it was mainly office buildings. It wasn't really an area. And they were shooting a scene, and I can tell you the scene, and it was from Return of the Planet of the Apes. You know, when the Planet of the Apes, and they take over, they finally escape, and then the last one's Battle of the Planet of the Apes. But it was actually seeing the scene where the apes were, being servants and all that, and within, the all-American human population and all that. I remember seeing that scene. I was just like fascinated by the whole world, and that was really, for me, I was like, wow.
Now, as you decided to express an interest in that, your stepdad, being so familiar with the business, but he's like, sure, go for it. He's like, what are you thinking? Please, Brad, do something else.
Oh, everything. I mean, it was just oddly enough, they had a party. I did one acting stink, which was quite funny. That my parents, they had the William Morris agency. They had a party at our house, and one of the agents, his name was at the time was Ed Bondi. He's no longer with us, but Ed, thought I was this cute little boy, and I was, at the time 15 years old, and he said, you know what? There's this director that's really looking for an unknown for this movie. You got to go see him, right? I'm like, okay. Didn't tell my parents or anything, right? Riding my bike up to Sunset Boulevard, right? And then I go into this room, and it happens to be, what was it? Endless Love.
Wow.
Now, they had not, it was Franco Zeffirelli that was in there, and I was a kid, and I'm like, hey, dude. It's the Italian guy speaking, and I don't understand him, and he's just like, okay, stand up. And it was my first time experience, went in and saw them, and he thought, okay, might have something, but I lost out because Brooke Shields then got the role, and I was a little too small for.
Oh man!
But I'm glad I'm not an actor.
Was that kind of the moment that made you decide, like, maybe I'd rather focus on stuff behind the camera as opposed to being in front of it?
No, I went to Emerson College, and then at Emerson College, it was really where I got my legs of really understanding producing. I did the comedy workshop there. Denis Leary was my comedy teacher at the time. Yeah,
Seriously?
Yeah, and Anthony Clark, the actor Anthony Clark, was in there. Max Munchnick that created Will and Grace.
Wow.
So Max was a year behind us. Anthony was in the same year. Me, Laura Neitlinger, a comedian. So we had to do stand-up comedy and all that. But we also had a thing called the Emerson Comedy Workshop where I produced all these kind of skit shows in college at the time, which was a little bit ahead of its time, and we also had the use of studios there, and this was when MTV was coming around. MTV turned on, I think, in '81, if I'm correct, and we had this thing called Emerson Independent Video. Shout out to Maria, I think she's an Emersonian, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we had this thing called Emerson Independent Video, and we had, this is 3/4 inch tape, right? 3/4 inch tape and all that. But we had cameras, we had a studio. So I came up with this idea that after school ended, we should go shoot videos and charge the bands. So I got the Del Fuegos at the time. Wow. I made this video, and that was that's where I started to get into more of the production of it and loving all of that stuff and doing that. And so the rest, and then I got into internships working at Warner Brothers and stuff like that.
Wow. So, because you're thinking about like maybe UCLA or USC in terms of like film school, something like that. You're just like, nah, I'd rather pursue something, get out of here, go to Emerson.
Have you met my folks? First of all, they don't like me, and no. I was fortunate enough, they said go anywhere and all that. It has to be at least 1,000 miles away from us. Now, I wasn't the only kid. That was all 5 of the kids. Okay, so it wasn't just like that. I went to, somebody said, oh, you should go to Emerson. I didn't know where Emerson was in Boston, there I ended up. And
wow. So what was it like moving? Did you go by yourself? Did you have any kind of support?
I
system
went by zero support. Let me tell you, my folks. I love my folks, and we love it, but it's like it's practical jokes all day long. We live my stepfather's Armenian, and the Turkish council moved in next door to us, right, when we were in Hancock Park. So when we used to go gardening, it's like throw the snails over into the Turkish tennis court and stuff like that.
So was that something that would be able to be so far away and kind of be on your own really for the first time? Was that an easy adjustment to make?
Well, I had fortunate enough. You mean be away? No, my parents sent me to Africa at the age of 13. I was in the
really?
Yeah, I was. I got the opportunity to work at the American Institute for Foreign Study. I was 13 years old, living on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. On the slopes of Kilimanjaro on the Kenyan side, and it was time when the East Africa was splitting up, and you had Idi Amin, you had Uganda, and all those. So we couldn't go that way. So I got to climb Mount Kenya at 13, and so I got these opportunities of independence at a very young age. Following year, I climbed Cheops with my sister illegally in Egypt when I was 14 years old. My ambition was always just insanity.
How do you? In terms of doing scaling a mountain that's considered illegal, like, is it easy to do that? Is it?
What do you mean illegal?
Or you say you're saying it's
illegal to climb up. It was at the time. It wasn't really illegal to climb Cheops, which was one of the 7 wonders of the world at the time. But I think now you could lose a leg.
Ah, gotcha. All right, okay, man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So to be able to have the opportunity to do so much of that traveling, going to Boston, that's.
Boston was great. I mean, that's when I really got my comedy legs. That's where I realized that I want to make people laugh. The joy of making people laugh it's the greatest thing for me.
Is the challenge when you want to do that to find out what your sensibility is? You've been influenced by so many things growing up, kind of taking what you've learned and been inspired by all those people, and then kind of figuring out but what's my approach? What's my viewpoint? So I'm not feeling like I'm just emulating, but I'm also contributing something that's really essentially mine.
I think the one thing I've always learned, and it was really kind of, more from like watching movies like broadcast news, James Brooks kind of movies. And my stuff I've always wanted to look at life in a comedic way and kind of ground moving forward. My stuff is more grounded in reality, and then your characters, and then you can just take them into a million different directions. And I like to ground it in reality, something real. If the subject is something, if you're dealing with a couple, what is that? What's their issues and stuff like that, real issues, and then how can you make it funny, because I do like to tap into uncomfortable situations.
Well, sure, I feel like that's if you, I don't know, I enjoy that so much more because I mean the reason it's so uncomfortable is because it's so, I feel like it's so true, and so we can easily relate to that, and nobody really.
That's really what I want to do, is make universal themes. You know, I got to work with Robert De Niro for 10 years, where I worked on anything from Marvin's Room all the way. I produced About a Boy, but we had done Ronin and was there, Analyze This, Meet the Parents. So I was able to really get a fantastic education. I mean, look at the people that wrote Analyze This, and Billy Crystal, and all in the director, and it's just, I mean, it was just amazing to be around that crazy talent. I mean, the one person I would just kill to be with and just love to spend a day with would be Mel Brooks.
Well, wow, what an opportunity!
Yeah.
Just the fact that he is, we're fortunate to still have him around, him and Carl Reiner.
Yes.
Yeah. That is incredible. So on an opportunity like that for Analyze This, when you've got Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal,
right?
Very accomplished in two different kind of aspects, though.
Right.
But when you're working on something like that, are you just kind of cherry picking both of them for different things?
I'm just soaking it all up. Yeah. I'm just soaking it all up. Even I mean, when we did Wag the Dog, Barry Levinson, and all those, and Dustin, and Bob. It was you learn so much by just observing these people.
Oh,
and I just wanted to find. I want my comedy, and you can't. Ripped is more of a hyper thing, kind of thing. But it's a starting point to where I really want to make people laugh through something that relatable.
So I actually one thing you mentioned. Dennis Leary was one of your comedy teachers. What is it like having Dennis Leary as a teacher? Because I mean, he feels like somebody.
Dennis was like, if you don't like fucking smoking, I'm gonna smoke in this class. Get the fuck out of here. Like, that was Denis, okay? And he was brutal. He was fantastic, but he was a lot younger then too. He had just, I think, finished his first tour, kind of the smoking tour, I think it was, that he had done. There was a big, yeah. He was fantastic, and he taught me to be fearless.
So for you, do you appreciate having somebody like that is going to be brutally honest with you,
Yeah.
or do you still want to have? Because I know some people respond to brutal criticism, and some people want some kindness mixed in with that.
With the brutal, of course, I want a little kindness. I mean, we all like it.
Yeah.
But,
Just give me
I mean, if you're gonna beat me, come on, just give me the tissue at least to clean up. Yeah, I like brutally honest. I like being challenged. I really, really do. I want to be the dumbest person in the room, and I try to be collaborative. You hire people that you believe in. If it's the screenwriter, you have those conversations, but you're really respecting those people. Now, unfortunately, I was a screenwriter in that one, but I've worked with other people that aren't me as screenwriters.
So going into there, did you already have kind of a tough skin kind of developed, or did that really being in that sort of environment over at Emerson really kind of help develop having more of a tougher skin? In terms of just like people being brutally honest, being fearless?
I think it came later. I think we were all very competitive at Emerson and trying to do the best that we could, because we really it was an art school, really. I mean, think about it. We had our own TV studios. We had our own film equipment. We could do whatever we wanted. It's still probably one of the #1 broadcast journalism schools in the world.
Did you do any improv out there, or is it more just...
We did improv, too,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm the worst improv. I'm just like, huh? But I do love it. I have a lot of respect. And even Russell and, Faison,
Yes. So when you finish school, do you decide to stay out on the East Coast, or do you come immediately back to Los Angeles?
I came back here, and my first job was working with John Peters and Peter Guber.
Whoa.
Yeah. So.
Man, that is awesome.
Well,
okay. I mean, yeah, awesome because just
yo,
the
kid,
historical
come
stuff
here.
that-
And it was like John Peters screaming at me, go get my car, filled, and go take this envelope and go pick something else up, but it was fun. His car was a Ferrari, and I used to get into that Ferrari.
Jeez.
Get in the second gears and all that. But yeah.
So
that was during Rain Man. We had Rain Man, Clan of the Cave Bear, what was the Revenge of Billie Jean King? I think it was Helen Slater or something. Or Billie Jean King. That's the
tennis.
The Revenge of Billie Jean King, the tennis player with her tennis racket. No, it was like Helen Slater. She was Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So coming out here, working on these films is like actually getting a chance to start getting some inroads into an industry you're really passionate about.
Right.
Is it exactly what you thought it was going to be, or it's like, oh man, being the low man on the totem pole is even worse than I thought it was?
It was great. I mean, it was, I mean, I did I mean, I was Jamie Foley's assistant. He called me at 2 a.m. coming back from, I was working on Who's That Girl? And I was his assistant, and he's out of his mind going, get over here. It's like 2 a.m. I'm like, why? He goes, my house smells like a skunk. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? We're going to find the skunk, and 2 a.m. I'm under his house, and I found that dead skunk with maggots. I'm like, yeah, there's a dead skunk here.
Wow. I imagine moments like that, you think like, this is my life now. I'm just doing bizarre things like this, and this is really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I mean, I got you pay your dues.
Yeah.
I didn't make anybody that's ever worked for me do that stuff, but we do laugh about it. And I still see Jamie, and we laugh about it.
Remember that time you become
Remember that time the skunk.
So as you start working on some of these productions and you start seeing how people are running this, do you start feeling like you kind of like, as you're kind of mentioning cherry picking, kind of think like, if I have the opportunity to produce, write, or direct, I want to do more stuff like this, or this is definitely stuff that this is not how I want to run a production. I want to kind of not do that, but I want to do more of this stuff.
You mean from my point of view?
Yeah, from your point of view, yes.
I mean, I took a lot. I mean, I took a lot of what I learned and then added my humor and my style to it a little bit. And I'm still exploring that. I think if you were to say, where do you want to go as a filmmaker? I'd say I want to be Richard Curtis. I want to do movies I produce more of about a boy. I would say 4 Weddings and a Funeral is one of my favorite, movies.
I was a sucker for Love Actually.
Love Actually.
Yes.
I love those I love those British comedies. I do. They're nuts for them.
What do you think in terms of sensibility between an American comedy and a British comedy?
I think the British comedy, I think they're more relaxed in Europe. You can say a lot of words that you just can't say here,
Yeah.
because you'll get hell for it, I've received hell for a little bit of the stuff I did in my movie, but, something I learned is if you're going to go for it, and this is, every comedian I've talked to has kind of said, you just got to go for it. You're going to get hit, but if you score, it works, so you got to be fearless. If you really want to go for it, be fearless. Take the pounding.
Is it easy because you're in the front, you're leading everybody,
right?
Cast, crew, you're in the forefront. They're all looking to you, but is it for those times when you're having maybe that moment of like, oh man, what am I doing? Who do you turn to like, oh man, I'm working on this and I'm making the right choice, or do you just kind of keep your own counsel?
I keep my own counsel, but I rely on my producer. I have a woman producer by the name of Suzanne Weinart, and she keeps me in line. She's also a veteran of it. She's a storyteller too. She's a producer. She worked, ran Julia Roberts' company for years in New York. So she's got her pedigree, and she knows how to handle people like us, and going, losing it sometimes. So yeah, she's my counsel. I do a lot of counseling before I shoot the movie. Meaning, like, when I give the script, I do a round table with comedians and writers, and we just sit around and we throw jokes around, and we do that without any actors in the room. Like, I'll do that twice, maybe 3 times. And you pull, get 2 more, 4 more, 5 more, 10 more jokes. It's fantastic. So I like to hire people that are collaborators that challenge me too. My casting director, Edie Belasco, God bless her. Like, she's told me I'm a fucking idiot to my face. I'm like, well, okay, well, I mean, she is right. I mean, I can even say I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know if I'm allowed to say
Oh, please,
that
absolutely.
on this, right? Okay.
And is it just in terms of who you're looking to cast, or just the script that you have?
Just me personally. Just my personal
Brad,
life.
you're a big effing idiot.
Casting.
Yes.
It was a casting. We had a big issue. She was very, very helpful to me on casting the younger guys that played Faison and all that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talent out there to find out. And
Oh man,
she had said some things to me. It was just like, basically, are you a fucking idiot, Brad? And I'm like, okay, you're right.
just
And
in
she
terms
was right.
like these are great. Well, why I'm bringing you some great folks. Why are you just not even?
Oh, I'm open to it.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
having the I love the conversation. I love the collaboration. I love all of that. But at the end of the day, I have to make that decision because I'm the director. But I'm open to it, and I hope, and I know that I have. I know that I have changed my opinions on things. because of the people, just like the DP, just talking, and that's all the collaboration, because I want to get all that going now. Now, obviously, every day something changes, on the set, but you can be as best prepared. So it's like when we're shooting things, I would say to the DP in prep, like we would, what's the funniest shot we can get here? What's the thing, and then of course on the day, but we have that collaboration. We talk about it and we go, no, yes, no, and then you have to make that decision.
I guess is the best way to have a set is that you want to have talented people that will kind of push and challenge you, but when a decision needs to be made, they're all going to follow your lead.
Yeah.
Is that an easy thing to achieve on a set, or is that a difficult thing?
I mean, if I think if everybody's respectful, I think if everybody understands their situation, absolutely.
So, as you mentioned, British comedies. One of the earlier films that you produced back in 2002, about a boy.
Right.
So, getting a chance to somebody who's grown up, loving British comedies.
I married a Brit. Too.
Really?
My first wife was British. Yeah.
Oh wow,
That
nice.
was a mistake. I love Brits,
Yes.
but
Did you get a chance to live in the UK for a while?
I was in the UK a lot, in the Manchester area, so northern part.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't understand my father-in-law half the time. Right. Another beer. Cheers.
I've been over to the UK a few times, and I love the place, but I've always thought of it'd be cool to live here for a certain chunk of time.
Yeah.
For you when you were
I
over
was
there.
able to leave. I was able to live a chunk of time. I also, when I was at Tribeca, worked with Queen. I did the Queen musical. I was developing the Queen musical with them. That was called We Will Rock You, and now I think they're finally going to do it as a movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that's because I always know when they're trying to do a Freddie Mercury.
It was a
and
Freddie
stuff.
Mercury story. It really
Yeah.
is a Freddie. It's a fascinating story.
Because I know it was Sacha Baron Cohen. Whether for
It
that
was
part,
originally Sasha, which I thought would have been great, but I don't know where they are right now with that. The musical was really dealing with Freddie and hiding his identity. He was Indian, he was Bangladeshi, I think, or something, and he changed his name from Farouk to Freddie. He hid his gayness for a long time, so that was dealing with that and the woman that he had in his life originally. So it's a pretty heartfelt, crazy story. So I hope they stick to that, and more so than what they did with the musical.
Wow, that's but I mean, to be able to listen to some Queen music. I mean,
Hang out with them. Are you kidding me? I got to hang out with Brian May. Are you kidding me? Yes. Roger.
man.
Well, Deacon never comes around very. Deacon's he's got some chicken farm that he hates fame. He absolutely hates fame.
Really?
Yeah. So he could care less about rock and roll.
It's it's just but the other two are like, hey, no, we still like to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're very involved. Yeah, yeah. Fascinating, really kind, beautiful people. I mean, to hear their stories and to see what Freddie Mercury went through. When he sang "Who Wants to Live Forever" at Live Aid, you knew that he had AIDS. So just think, if you watch that now on YouTube, see how powerful it is.
Man. So while you get a chance to, was living in the UK what you thought it was going to be, or was it
The best Chinese food, the best Indian food. I just don't understand why they can't get it right here. They can't even get it right in New York when I lived. I just want some good Chinese food, from London. So if there's any people out in London, ship it here to me, please.
So even out here in LA, you cannot find good Chinese food? No. Do you, is it a constant search? Or
No,
it's
I'm not
given
that
up.
obsessed. No, I just go to Genghis Khan that I used to go to all the time. In town.
It's inferior, but I'll eat it.
Yeah, I've lost that battle. I've accepted the American Chinese, and it's sad.
That day when you have to just come to all right, I guess I have to just give up this dream.
Yes, or move back to the UK.
Would you ever want to move back?
I would. Well, I have 3 kids right now, so I think, yeah. I mean, I love the UK. I think we'd probably hit New York first.
Okay.
Slowly get that way. I love Europe, so I could live anywhere in Europe. Most of my other movies, I'm taking to Europe.
What a great idea. So
They were written as Bakersfield, California. I just wrote South of France.
Yeah, nope, we were ahead.
South of France. I know it says Bakersfield, but we're going to.
Nope, I need this area. That, trust me, it's going to work out much
It's
better.
going
Folks.
to work much better than Bakersfield.
So now you get a chance to work on About a Boy.
Yeah.
And what is it like working on that production? You get to work with Hugh Grant. You get to work with.
It was great because, first of all, I mean, that was a crazy journey. The book originally was Nick Hornby, great writer, right? No, we stole the manuscript. We had the manuscripts in New York and trying to get, during that time, it was really, it was almost no, it started the internet, yeah. And but you weren't getting PDFs, you know, you weren't. So I had people like that would steal manuscripts off of publishers and stuff like that. That was part of what the development crew did. You know, you take the girls that work out at the publishing place, get them drunk, and they like you, and then the next day you get that manuscript that you're not supposed to have. And unfortunately, Scott Rudin and Harvey Weinstein also had that same ploy because they had the manuscript at the same time. So the agent, Jenny Coserato in the UK, who repped Nick at the time, actually never sent the book out, and it sold for $3 million.
Wow, man.
And New Line at the time had bought it. And they didn't read it. Mike DeLuca didn't read it was just me and Lynn Harris at the time that had read it. And it happened to be my birthday. So Mike called me and said, "Happy birthday."
It's
Thank
like,
you.
all right.
All right. Not a tie, no tie.
For you, I mean, one of the two people that kind of read the script. I mean, are they?
It was a book, manuscript. Yeah.
But they're looking. Is Mike DeLuca looking at you like, all right, Brad? Do you think this is something that we?
I
should
think he
really
was
pursue?
looking to his executive, who, you know, Lynn, and Lynn was like, "Are we? Is this crazy?" I mean, it started, it was like 1 million. I'm like, oh, well, 1 million, right? And then she called me back. She's like, "Brad," I'm like, "What?" She goes, "We're at 1.7." I'm like, 1.7. Okay, yeah. She's like, "You still feeling good about this book?" I'm still feeling good about this book, right? And then it got up to 3 million, and we took it. And then New Line put it in turnaround when Mike left, and it went over to Universal, and there it got at Universal with working title.
Oh, man.
So it all worked out.
So another film that you worked on, Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. You get to work Michael Douglas on that film. For somebody else, like very much like Robert De Niro, who's been involved in a lot of different aspects of the industry.
Right.
What's an opportunity to talk to Michael Douglas, kind of just hear a lot of his experiences?
I mean, he's just a generous sweetheart. I mean, he was just a really, really nice guy. He's obviously talked. I mean, I knew a lot of the people that he knew because of our, you know, his family and stuff like that. So and he knew that I had worked with Bob before, so we had some interesting stories to talk about, which was fun. But he's a fascinating guy.
Just the projects that he's been involved with, and just the family that he's come from. Just I'd imagine, just so many endless stories that he could share.
Oh yeah.
So when does the idea come from? Like, you know, I just want to just be producing films, but you know, you've been, as talking about back at Emerson, always being involved in creating stuff as well.
Right.
Thinking like, all right, producing is great and being involved in these projects, but I actually want to be the one that's calling the shots, writing a script, directing it, and bringing it to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was a studio executive. I had studio gigs. It's easy to be a producer with a studio deal. You know, Tribeca, we had a studio deal, carte blanche. You know, credit cards, everything. You know, it was pretty incoming business, right? And that as a producer is a bigger strength, and there's a lot more say. When you become an independent producer and you're scruffing along, everything changes, you know, and you don't have any of those luxuries. You're not getting, as a producer, as an overhead producer, you're getting paid. As an independent producer, you don't get paid until the first day of shooting. Right? You know, so you're developing, you're doing all these things, and there were a couple projects, one in particular that just irritated the shit out of me, and it was I realized that the independent producer to the studio producer, much huge difference. And you just don't have that creative control as much, and trying to control the director and trying to just get everybody to stay on schedule. Now, again, none of these, in the studio situation, people are getting holding deals and stuff like that. When you're in the independent world, you don't have those holding deals. You don't have anything until really everything comes together and boom, you're shooting the movie and then you get paid. So my frustration was when I started to do some independent movies. There was one movie in particular where it's still not made to this day, right? And it should have been made. And it was because the director kept going off and doing these little TV, it was just a TV show. He wasn't show running, it was just a TV pilot. I'm like, if you're going to do this, you got to stay focused and you got to do it. And he was having managers, they'll go off. So we were kind of like lingering, just going, ugh. And I just realized in that time, I'm going to write a screenplay. And I'm going to get it made before this guy does. Right? That was just my thought. That was my evil thought. That was it. Okay.
It was almost like I want to stick it to this guy and show him that yes, I could do this.
Oh, I still want to stick it to him. Okay. And I'm sure he knows that the movie's out, and he knows I'm sticking it to him. And so I had this idea, which was basically the idea of, you know, how technology changed in 30 years, and then pot was legal, and then I thought, wait a minute, wouldn't it be funny if we had guys that started in like '86, smoked some weed, and they're in 47-year-old bodies with 17-year-old brains, the world has changed completely. Google, Craigslist, how you date, Facebook, and pot's legal. And I thought that was an interesting answer. I was like, okay. And so that's where I started.
Because I always think, like, in terms of time travel, that, people are saying, like, oh, you go back to
I hate time
40s,
travel
30s,
movies,
things
by
like
the
that.
way.
But just in the sense where it's like, if somebody even just like, just from like, it's like the 80s, whether they came forward to today or somebody that was just like a teenager now went back to the 80s.
Well,
and
I
saw
like
how
Back to the
different it was.
Future. Yeah, I love Back to the Future as it. But like any of those other time travel, hot tub time travel, I mean, I've been compared to that and stuff like that. But we're moving forward.
Yes.
We start in '86 and get to 2016. So that's what they're more fish out of waters. I like that idea. I like the idea of these guys, these man-child, these guys that were in these bodies, but their brains hadn't developed past 17 years old, and pot was legal.
And
The internet and what the fuck is going on here, right?
So for you tapping into that, I mean, growing up, maybe pretty much present day during that time, relating to a lot of the stuff that you've got Reeves and Harris that are interested in and wanting to be about. So it was easy just to kind of dial into Reeves and Harris's characters.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was like those guys were like, they had great ideas. They wanted to sell coffee in '86. Okay,
Yeah, that's right.
They wanted to sell coffee, and that they were told that was the stupidest idea. That's like selling bottled water, which was another stupid idea that was brought up in '86. Only look what bottled water's doing today. And we have Starbucks on every, we have a coffee shop on at least 3 on every street in LA. So yeah, they had these kind of ideas. They were just kind of buggling along a little bit, and I just thought it would be just so funny to see how the world would change, how it's just changed. Somebody said, "Is it your life?" I'm saying, "What? I was stoned and comatose for 30 years. Now I've done some things. In those 30 years. I didn't wake up. Hello, world."
But just in terms of who Reeves and Harris were back in the '86. Was it very similar to you, or just friends of yours that you kind
They
of?
were friends of mine. They were friends of mine. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It was. We were going to the LL Cool J, Beastie Boys. Who was it? Was the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, and Run DMC concert. It was actually a concert. I forget the name of what they called it in that summer and stuff like that.
Oh wow! Yeah, because I guess because they both got the big glasses that they're all.
Oh yeah, the Adidas. Oh yeah, that's the whole the shell toes. Yeah. That I did have the shell toes, of course.
The what you've done with Reeves's hair back in '86, that is a sweet hairstyle.
Okay.
On top of that.
That actually came from a drunken night with Big Daddy Kane. He actually sings the title song "Ripped" with I put him together with Lance Armstrong, not Armstrong. Look him up, Armstrong, and they're this kind of techno live band that they can merge. They're fantastic. So, and they're in Austin. They were an Austin band, right? And so with Big Daddy, they came together, but that was after the fact. I had met Big Daddy Kane at Russell Peters' house, and Russell said, "You guys got to meet." And so Big Daddy Kane, he was drinking some wine, and we were getting there, and he said, "What kind of hairstyle are you gonna get phase on?" I'm like, that's so funny you say that, because I don't want to do the typical Afro thing. I mean, that's just so stupid. And he goes, "Gumby that shit." I'm like, "What? Gumby that shit." Gumby. And like, the Gumby hair. And all that. Like, they had it. Like, kid and play. And I'm like, perfect. Done. So Big Daddy Kane.
I never realized that was the name of that kind of style, was the Gumby.
Gumby. Yeah, Gumby.
I didn't realize that. All right.
Yeah, Gumby it. Gumby that shit. And I'm like, what? I was like, I knew Pokey. Oh, Gumby that shit.
So you mentioned Faison. Now, was he somebody that you had in mind right from the beginning, or was that something that you had to?
I was aware of Faison. It was really, I've always loved him, and it was interesting. It was Russell and I had a conversation, and Russell knew him, and they were interesting friends, and I thought, this could be good, because I think when you see the movie, you see the relationship between the two of them. What I also wanted to accomplish was a trust, and I think you have to. That's an incredible thing that I really learned in comedy. You need to have your actors trust you, and you need to make them feel comfortable, especially when you're going to push things to the absurd, and which I do and something like that, and they trust it, and so Faison. With Russell just made sense to me, because I knew within the scene, as long as we got what we got, and we always would get what we needed, and then I would let it roll, because I knew that these two guys could power off each other, and they did. And they powered off each other in a really kind of great way. Some of that stuff. Some of that funnier lines I will give to Faison. Yes. And Russell.
What I do like, though, is it kind of goes, because you expect maybe more of the cliche thing, is where you have two buddies, and eventually they have to have this terrible disagreement, they kind of go their separate ways, only to reunite. And it's nice that they are just, they're there for each other throughout the entire film.
Right.
I mean, a couple hiccups along the way, but overall,
Right.
I mean, they're there.
Right.
And so I like that idea. It's like, all right, there's no big, it avoided the cliche of like, this tremendous, obstacle that they need to overcome just personally.
Right. I didn't want him smoking, like going, dude. I tried to avoid most of those dudes. I have a couple of dudes, but not, the kind of that stoner. My other favorite movie would have to be Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, Sean Penn is was probably him and Keanu and Alex Winter and Bill and Ted's. Those are some great stoners.
And what Faison worked with Ken? What is it in
Faison was in Elf.
Yes.
Yes. He plays that crazy.
He's
brilliant. He is brilliant, and I learned a lot from him. He's a challenging actor, and I like it.
So for you, as somebody who's written the script, and then you turn it over to the actors to give them, do you give them a lot of leeway in terms of improving, or do you kind of basically, let's do one to the script, and then I'll give you guys a chance?
We talk about it. I'm not precious. I'm like, oh, you got to say that word. You got to say that word.
You don't understand.
Although I've heard the whole Terminator story with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back, and Arnold kept saying, "We'll be back," and James Cameron is, "No, I'll be back." I'll be back, and they were fighting, and they got in the hugest fight, I think. And of course, one of the greatest lines is, "I'll be back," right? So yeah, we have a conversation of getting what we need to get, and I do let it. I think the most amazing thing of digital is that you can let it roll. I think my biggest disappointment for Dan in real life as a producer was some of the funniest stuff would happen when the film rolled out. And, so you lose all of that.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of that stuff, but...
digitally,
digitally you can just keep going.
But what does that mean for when you get into the editing room and you've let everything roll, and now you've got, for a scene, you could have just so many hours of footage,
right.
And you've got to distill it down to something.
You just have to figure it out. It's painless. I mean, it's painful. It's painful. It's painful because there's some stuff that even was so brilliant, but that they would do. But the problem was you're moving at such a fast pace sometimes, and I never got the reverse of it because it was never really scripted, so you didn't think of it sometimes of getting the reverse, because if you had the reverse, then you could have added some crazy. I mean, I get some of it, but some of the stuff you would miss out on. Yeah.
So now you said you shot this in Austin?
Yeah.
So it's certainly not the south of France, but Austin, a very cool town.
Oh, I've never been to Austin. I love Austin. It's the greatest city. I mean, it's fantastic. I would encourage everybody to move to Austin.
And what made you decide to head out to Austin to film
It had the tax credit. It was
Okay.
right to work state, and it fit what we needed. And I can make it nondescript. I mean, you don't really know it. Most people don't know it's Austin.
No, I would not have thought about that.
So I made it Mover, Stoner, whatever. So for how many states we got now? Next election will be more, unless Jeff Sessions has his way.
But yeah,
It's all right.
Yeah. How long did you have in Austin to shoot this?
20 days.
So I
Moving
mean,
quick.
when for working on other big budget productions where you've got sometimes months to be able to shoot this project, now you've got 20 days. Is it hard to kind of scale back and work within that time frame?
It's like hard. It's challenging. You know what I mean? I don't want to. It's like, oh, hard. I'm complaining. I get to make movies. It's challenging and I love that. How do you convey what you're trying to do on a limited budget or something? So yeah, those challenges and stuff like that. And then moving so quickly. I mean, Jesus, 10 pages a day, 12 pages a day, sometimes 3 moves in a day. And my producer, see, that's the stupidity producer of me. Oh, we can get it done. And my producer's like, no, you can't. You can't. I'm like, yes, we can. And I did it. It was that, I should have listened to her on that one. But it didn't matter. I mean, we only had 20 days. It wasn't like I was going to get an extra day. It was an independent movie. Hey, I don't have that luxury.
As somebody that's worked on both sides, on independent productions as well as studio productions, just in terms of just like the scale of it, is there I guess the question is like a lot of just unnecessary fat on
Waste.
a studio production.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you're just like doing it something more independent. It's actually just, you can see that there's money wasted unnecessarily so on a big studio production.
I think there is. I think there's a lot of way. I think, well, it's just the way the American system in filmmaking is set up. You have to have a certain amount of number of drivers. If you have the cars, if you have a certain amount of grip and electric and stuff like that. But there's a way, I think, to scale down if you have a really good crew to do that. I mean, that's the only way. You have to find people that are going to go on this suicide mission with you, because you're asking the DP who hates you, right? You're going to shoot this movie in 20 days. Now, he's great, Phil Roy, and I think he did a spectacular job, but I'm sure Phil said, oh, I wish I had 40 days. Of course. Well, any DP is going to say that, right?
Yeah. So for you, day one, I'm sure it's like, oh, we got 20 days. Are we going to be able to get everything that we need to get done?
How about, is Faison going to show up? Okay, because he hadn't arrived yet. That was our day. Okay, so
day one,
Faison was on he came in that morning. He had to do a stand-up that night before, and his agents were kept booking him because that's where they make his money. I'm like, no, we have a contract. He was supposed to be here 2 weeks ago, right? But they had, at that point, what are you supposed to do? And we had already had one day of rehearsal, so I was well prepared. And Faison, Faison shows up and all that, and I put the Gumby on his head. I put that shirt and the shirt and that jacket and those pants, and he looks at me and I go, next time maybe show up a little earlier and you can have a say in this, but you don't. Let's go! Let's shoot, baby! And he was such a trooper with that outfit. I mean, it was kind of a really like, are you kidding me? Like, imagine arriving, right? And I put him in. That's the first outfit. You're in the 80. You're in 2016 look.
Yeah, with the 86 clothes.
With the 86 clothes that don't fit.
Right.
And it's 110 degrees out, and we're getting into the van to shoot that first scene in the van where Debbie knocks on, and that was the first scene with them.
Man, was he there for all 20 days, or did he also have to flat and do stand-up?
No, that was I think Russell had to shoot 1 or 2 days, and maybe Faison, but we were able to keep it to comedians usually they make their most money on Thursday, Friday, starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. So that was
how many days into production did you feel comfortable? Like, all right, we're going to be able to get it done in 20 days.
Oh, I always felt we were going to get it done.
Really?
Oh yeah. There was no. Like, I'm getting it done. Like, that's who I am. Like, no, I'll get it done. Like, there's a wall. I'll barrel through that wall. I have to get it done.
That's right. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day,
my Teamsters didn't show up one day because they thought it was a big thing. It was and it was the farthest location, and I'm like, and we're gonna shoot that scene. We had to shoot the Bucky scene and all that stuff inside and outside the bathroom scene. I show up and I'm like, I see some crew, but I don't see where are our trucks, and I can see my producer slowly coming over to me, just going. I'm like, am I here early? She goes, no, we have an issue. And I'm like, oh, where are our trucks? That's the issue. And they had the makeup trucks and all that. So she was able to wrangle everybody, get all the makeup kits out of the thing. She hired a hotel, opened a 2 blocks away from where we were. And we were up and running and got it done in that day in the same amount of hours. I just lost hours to shoot, but I had to get it done.
For you, being under those kind of restrictions and those kind of obstacles, does it excite you as opposed to oh, it'd be great to be on a big studio production, have all the money, have all this stuff?
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just a sick human being that way. Like, I like to torture myself. Like, I mean, I've lost my key to my car. That's in my car. Okay, I have 2 car keys. Right now, I could easily. I haven't found. No one's been able to find it. I just like to torture myself for 3 years, and if I just go get another key, my life will be easy, right? But I just want to torture myself because I know when I find that key and when I buy that key, I'm going to see that key that same day, the spare key or something like that. I've sent it to the dealership. They're like, no, we can't find. The key is definitely in the car because you can start the car. So anybody that knows me and lives here and sees my car, you can actually steal it because the key is in there. Well, the key's in it, but you need the other key to actually open it. But if it's unlocked, you guys are good to go.
I mean, nobody's watched Brad. What kind of car do you have?
It's an Infinity.
Oh, okay, great. License plate number? 2L5. So now, as you finish there with Ripped, and you get in post, and you're putting it up, I guess as they say, like there's 3 different movies that you're making. You what you're writing, what you're shooting, and then what you're editing.
Right.
So which was the more enjoyable step for that?
I think the most enjoyable was obviously shooting the movie and stuff like that. I think the editing, you beat yourself up and go, God damn it, I wish I would have gotten that shot. But I did bring my editor. I brought her to Austin with me, yeah, because I just felt that was my producing instinct, like spend the money, put your editor there. She was editing everything as we were going along. So if I missed something, I could grab it if I needed to, and it was helpful.
Because I've heard like Kevin Smith things where for some of his films he starts editing right along the way, so that's got to be so helpful.
Yeah,
to know if you've missed something.
It's exhausting, but it's the smart. I think it's the smart thing to do. Other filmmakers don't even want to get into that.
Because I'd imagine, because if you miss something, then you have to try to, if you can scrunch up more money to try to do a reshoot, which I imagine on that kind of budget it's impossible.
But that's the mentality of the studio thing, is that that's part of it. Is that, oh, we'll go back and get it. Oh, if it doesn't really work, we'll reshoot 30 pages, $30 million.
And instead, why don't we just shoot it the right way the first time and not have to worry about all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you've seen it, and you've interviewed a lot of people where they've started out with something and they've gone over budget or something, or they tested the movie and it something didn't work, or they hated the character. I mean, there's been those some famous stories about I think it was Michael Eisner told me once when he did. They got horrible ratings on Grease, the musical, right? Oh wow! And Michael Eisner was the guy that came up and he told me this. He said, "Animate the credits at the beginning." So basically, it was animated. It was trying to get your. The one thing I've always learned from him was like get your audience comfortable at whatever you're going to do. So when they screened it the first time, it was a musical and people weren't into it. But when they showed the animation at the beginning, people got into it. So when the music came up and they were singing and dancing, it scored huge.
Oh, that's all right. As we're getting to a wrap up, the one thing I want to ask, because there is a lot of pot smoking in this film, but when you're actually shooting pot when you're actually trying to recreate pot smoking,
it's pot.
Yeah. Is it?
No.
No. I was like, all right. But
it's some good OG, dude, and some Tiva, No, it's all natural stuff that the prop department gets. I mean, there's a whole thing of things that you can smoke for, it's just natural. It's like vaping in a way, you know what I mean? So the actors doesn't feel like I'm sure 20 years ago they were definitely taking some horrible shit, like just use this tobacco or something. It's got, we'll just spray some stuff. It's carcinogenic.
So props is coming to you going like, this is how it's going to look. And you want to just kind of see how the effect is like, yeah, that looks like that's realistic kind of pot
yeah, I mean, it's a pot. Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing about it was like, they would bring me some of the, we have weed in there and jars and all that, and they were showing me the weeds, and I was just like, no. It's just like, where'd you guys grow up? Like, they had brown weed. I said, no, I grew up with purple and specky weed.
Guys, come on, do your research. What is happening here? Yes.
Yeah.
So now going through this whole process, Ripped is done. It's now available to be seen by audiences finally.
Yeah.
Are you? Do you feel like all right? You've crossed the finish line, so
yes.
to speak. Are you happy with the results? Are you excited to jump back in and work on the next project?
I'm excited to work on the next project. I'm already on to the next one. We're about to cast it, and so it's something I wrote with another writer, female writer, a friend of mine, and we're gonna just do that. And then I have another one that goes to the south of France, actually.
Is it easy to kind of let that, because you feel like you hear like George Lucas. I mean, somebody like, with the Star Wars films or something like that, you're kind of obsessive and kind of like, what didn't I get? And kind of noodling. Are you able to kind of put that aside and say, what we have is what we have?
I have obsessed over all the things that I need to have my conversation with myself on how to be a better director and how to do things differently and better. I've had those conversations and beat myself up with now, and I'm excited to take that knowledge and screw it up on the next one. No, and make it happen on the next one. So yeah, I'm done with this. I've learned. I'm appreciative of everything, and I'm excited. I hope people go out and see the movie. It's fun. Download it on Apple. I think it's so amazing. Like you get it at Apple. It's like on a PlayStation. I'm like, PlayStation? What do you mean you can download on PlayStation and all that? So. It's available now. I'm not going to tell people to smoke weed and watch it.
But if you find yourself...
But you find yourself in that situation, it's always enjoyable.
So, Brad, if they want to keep up to date with you, I know you've got a cool Instagram handle. Where can they follow you on social media to keep up to date on Ripped or any of the future projects?
I would say go to Instagram, it's Panther Films, and Twitter, it's Epstein Brad.
man. And if you need somebody to just keep an eye on just the gear in the south of France, just let me know.
You're on.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there you go.
Suntan lotion. You want to be the suntanner?
That's right. That's perfect. Yep, guys.
Suntanner, bring him in. Psh, psh.
Guys, you want to cover every party body. You don't get melanoma, guys. Let me be that person.
And by that, the production over there, don't they have like French hours where they just keep working, but they just serve the most amazing food at all times.
The craft service must be amazing over there.
Yes, no Twizzlers. No.
You're going to be able to find out firsthand about that.
Yes.
We may never see you return back to the States.
I'm not coming back. I have had French hours. I'm telling you, those most important thing on the set is the caterer, my friend.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I feel like a
happy crew.
Yes,
I will always spend more money on catering, always to keep the crew happy. These people work their fucking asses off.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. Because if they're full
and they have happy, families too, and they need to get home to their families too. So that's like, I'm respectful of what they do.
Oh man. My guest today has been Brad Epstein. Make sure you checked out Ripped. Be on the lookout for not one but two upcoming films.
Let's hope more than two. But
okay. Yes, but
we'll just start with
two, at least in the pipeline. We'll say two in the pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
There you go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Folks, we'll see you back here next time for another episode of iTalk Movies right here on Popcorn Talk.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.